We are hearing news from the highest level at Cars and Bids and PCAR Market that big changes are on the horizons. The Bid Nerds have scoop tonight. Plus, we're going to go over our predictions from the last episode. And of course, we've got all new predictions and you can play along. This is Bid Nerds. The bidding starts now. Bid Nerds is your YouTube car game show. That is right. Welcome, everybody. You are here for a live episode of Bid Nerds. My name is John Polnik. We are coming to you live from the Container Park in downtown Las Vegas at the Rami Studio, as well as my partner, Michael Deeb, over there. Right over there, that right there is San Francisco. Right. That's how close it is to Las Vegas. That's Michael Deeb. How you doing, Michael Deeb?
Pick me. Yes. JP, we have an all-star audience tonight. We've got... Chris Carbine is our biggest advocate, if ever there was one. But Chris Carbine's got some of the highest level of eyes on us for Cars and Bids. So welcome to the Nerd Herd. The new CEO of Cars and Bids, Dan Harmon, I believe, is watching tonight. Welcome to the show, Dan, and all of your new team. A big hello from the Nerd Herd. You may recognize some names in the chat. Some veterans of the industry and employees of Cars and Bids watch the show with regularity. So welcome, everybody. This is going to be fun. JP, what do we got?
Well, look, here's the thing. We've been doing this for a little while. And we've been talking about, look, there's no... Everybody knows that this guy here, I might be a little critical of a few of the platforms from time to time. Let's be honest. It's been known to happen, right? But really, we've been talking. Everyone asks us, what platform should we list our car? That's probably the most common question that I get, that I know you get, when people find out that we are the Bid Nerds. The viewers, our audience knows a lot of what we're going to be talking about tonight because they've been watching the show. We've kind of known some of these are coming from for a long time now, right? But here's the thing. We've been talking about problems that a lot of the platforms have and why Bring a Trailer is or has been the only game in town. Bring a Trailer accounts for what? Over 90% of daily car auctions in the enthusiast world. Bring a Trailer puts out 100 to 120 cars a day, whereas Cars and Bids and PCAR Market, they're lucky if they get a dozen cars out. Some of the other platforms with big names behind them, like Haggerty and Sotheby's, sometimes they don't even have a car on a single day, right? So the big question is why? Why are these other names not pulling it off? Well, we've had criticisms of Cars and Bids. The Nerd Herd and the Bid Nerds, I think we know why those platforms have been struggling. And the problem is we've been talking about the problems of those platforms, and our advice has fallen on deaf ears until now. Like, quite literally, we have the ear of very high-level folks at both of these platforms. And I got to tell you, people think that I absolutely hate some of these other platforms, and that's just not the case. I give them a hard time because it's kind of like being disappointed in your kid, right? I don't hate you. I'm just disappointed, right? I think that Cars and Bids has so much potential. I personally have sold cars on Cars and Bids. I was maybe one of the first people to sell a car, certainly in the first year, but maybe in the first few months. I was really excited about that platform when it hit the ground, right? And since then, it's kind of floundered. But now there's new leadership, and they really seem to be listening to not just the Bid Nerds, but the market in general. They actually seem to be paying attention to what the heck is going on out there. And it sounds like they're offering some really cool stuff. What's the latest? What's going on at Cars and Bids, Michael Deeb? What'd you hear?
Yeah, if you watch the Bid Nerds, you're plugged in, and we have it on good authority that tomorrow Cars and Bids is going to officially announce that they are going to cast a wider net. And geez, JP, now that I put myself on the spot, I don't know where their cutoff is. Is it 1985? I think it's 85 and younger, and I'm going from memory. I actually don't remember the last time I clarified what their year range is, but what they're going to do is sort of lift that restriction and allow older, vintage, cool cars that they are going to curate and essentially hand select some really cool cars to get this off the ground to usher in. Like if you have a Jeep or you have an SUV you know that Cars and Bids is probably your best place to get a retail number for that. Well, imagine if they're selling, really cool vintage Jeeps and SUVs and that sort of thing. They're now selling 911s like crazy. Well, what if we start seeing air cooleds trip on there? Air cooleds kind of go back down into a range that they haven't operated in. That restriction is coming off. And you heard it here first on the Bid Nerds. I can't imagine, JP, that there is a single member of the nerd herd that isn't a registered bidder on Cars and Bids. You should be getting these emails, and tomorrow look for a big announcement with all of the details of how this wider net will be cast and what the new parameters were going to be. But I think that is a huge step in the right direction. And conversations that we've had with the top brass at Cars and Bids, there are a litany of small tweaks and changes that all fall in line with the best practices that we've been preaching on for the last 5 years. So I think we're really promising that good things are going to come. And with that, as they get these changes affected, we're really hoping that some of these guys from Cars and Bids will jump on the show with us and explain it to you firsthand, which we hope is in the works. So there you go. Yeah. JP, breaking news. I feel like TMZ.
Right. I mean, it's like, I'm hoping, and I know you've had these conversations with these guys, I'm hoping that we're done with the days of seeing, a $200,000, Ferrari next to an ad for a Miata that's parked next to a dumpster at a Walmart parking lot, and it has a crooked, it's like you guys got to have some quality control. I think more than anything, quality control of the ads and the listings as they come in. Cars and Bids needs to say no. PCAR market needs to say no. It's no. Bad seller, bad, right? I mean, that's the only, you've got to, like you put it best, Deeb, when I've heard you say it, you got to have a gatekeeper. You got to have a bouncer that's saying, guys, you're not just well enough to be in our club. And it seems like that has just that's gone over the heads because, again, I give Doug DeMuro a hard time for his aesthetic. How can I knock Doug DeMuro? He is a huge success. He has sold gajillions of cars. He gets millions of views on his YouTube channel videos. And why fix something that isn't broken? That's fine. That works for your YouTube channel. The pleated shorts, the cargo shorts and the messy hair and just the mess that he looks like in general when it comes to aesthetics. Your business shouldn't be the same way. You might, like, if you had an actual store, like if you had a coffee shop and at home you're a mess, maybe you don't clean your kitchen as well as you should because you're actually running a business. Maybe you don't iron your shirt or whatever, but that doesn't mean you let your employees show up to work in a dirty t-shirt and you just leave dirty stuff in your store looks like a mess, right? When you're running a business that's facing the public, it needs to if your brand is a certain level, it's got to look like it. It's just that simple. And I think they're hearing that. They know that now.
Yeah, by all accounts, this new team that's at Cars and Bids is going to raise the floor. And I think their intention is if they do that, they'll remove the ceiling. They can grow into a space they haven't been. And like you said, JP, the ultimate goal for them, like anybody else in the space, is to take a bigger bite out of BAT's butt and get a larger share of the market for themselves. And that's just going to, everybody involved is going to get green. Your sellers, your buyers, and all your employees, and in that case, investors. So,
but here's the thing. It's going to require a little bit of pain up front. If you say no to the people who want to come in through your front door, that means fewer people at first, right? You're going to lower your volume. But if the guys at Cars and Bids and PCAR Market set a higher standard and say no to more people up front, that will attract customers and more people that fit that higher standard and will you're just going to have a higher quality amount. You're going to have a higher quality product, and that's going to attract more buyers and sellers. And that's the way that you're finally or ultimately going to get a bite out of BAT. That's the only way to do it, guys. All the other gimmicks, 2 minutes or 1 minute or this thing or that thing or whatever. Oh, we're going to add a function that allows us, the high bidder to get another shot after all these little things are just gimmicks. None of that stuff matters. You got to have quality control, and that's what we have been saying from the get-go, and I'm so glad that our message is finally being heard. Okay, we've kind of talked about that. Let's get into what we do on this channel. If you are new to this channel, if you've never watched the show, thank you for joining us tonight. And if you're watching live, get over there in the chat and introduce yourself to the Nerd Herd. You're going to make really good friends over there. That's really the gold bucket that this show has for you guys. If you're an enthusiast, you're going to meet great people in the Nerd Herd. So get in there, introduce yourself. Make sure you hit the thumbs up and like button so that we spread the word and grow the herd. And what we do on this channel is we pick the most interesting listings from Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, PCAR Market, and some of the other platforms. We analyze those listings and we make predictions. What will happen as a result of those listings at the end of their auctions? So let's get to it. We always start off every episode by going over our predictions from the last episode. We hold ourselves accountable. What is that all about? That's just crazy, right? All right, what's the first car that we made a prediction on the last episode, Michael Deeb? Let's get right to it, since we're talking about cars and bids.
Yeah, let's circle right back to our hero car. Our stage car from the last show is on Cars and Bids. It's this 2010 Lamborghini Gallardo LP 552 Valentino Balboni edition, one of just 250 made. These are rear-wheel drive Gallardos. But the big disappointment with this particular model, the Balboni, is that they all came with the E-gear. JP, these cars were fantastic. They upgraded the motor just a little tiny bit, and then they took away the front-wheel drive aspect of the all-wheel drive cars to make these rear-wheel drive models. A little bit stiffer suspension, a little bit probably better brake mat material, and probably a higher spec tire for the Balbonis. But the only reason these cars aren't trading for $300,000 today is because they don't have a 6-speed manual. These sequential manual shifting single clutch gearboxes are a little bit herky-jerky. Now, I know that you've had an Audi R8 convertible with the V10 and the E-gear and said once you learn how to drive it, it's not that bad. And that may be true, but these cars would be worth more if they had actually built them with the gated manual. Lamborghini was going for ultimate performance, and the faster shifts were the single clutch, and so that's how they were made. That being said, the Balbonis are still collectible. JP, when we take a look at this car on Cars and Bids, it had 22,000 miles on the odometer. It was on a clean Ohio title out of Mason, Ohio. Yellow with the rear-wheel drive and the black and white interior. Very cool car. I was surprised, JP. In my mind, I always thought the Balbonis got their carbon racing buckets, but that's not the seat that is in these cars. So I wonder if the value would be enhanced by having like the best seat that they offered, or if it was even just an option. I wish I knew more about these. Very cool cars, great on the track. But I think if you were just going to really drive this on the street and have fun and roll up, that the manual would be the way to go. I'm going to harp on that till the day I die. So, JP, we talked to our friends at at Classic.com, and at Classic.com, they tell us that the LP 552s typically sell for $127,000 in the secondary market. JP, Classic.com does not have a column just for Balbonis. So Balbonis are roped into the LP 552s. I think if we look at Balbonis, they're typically over $150,000 or more. So with that in mind, JP, I gave a bid of $158,000 where I thought it might come really close to selling if it got to my number. You were very, very, very bearish on this listing. And so your bid, JP, was just $95,000. Our car came in and hammered at $119,000, $119,452, where it failed to sell on 26 bids. So they got good action, but I don't think they got real money. I mean, JP, when we look at that number, it's not even close to the average that an LP 552 will bring, which is closer to 130. So this car, to me, JP, was just sort of an abject failure on this platform. Better assets? Is it a better time of the year? Should a supercar be on a bigger platform? These are the questions that we discern. What do you read from the tea leaves when you see a car failing to sell that's a special edition at under $120,000? Does that have more to do with the stock market or the way the car was presented?
Yeah,
where it was presented.
this was definitely a platform problem. You know, the assets were not great. They're not horrible, but for a car that's this special, I think this is again where when you go to a platform, you kind of want those guys to, you know, they should be helping their sellers get the most amount of money for the car. And when something this special comes across the desk of a auction specialist at, say, Cars and Bids, whoever that auction specialist is, whether they're the lowest, you know, intern or there's someone higher up in the organization, there should be at the very minimum, the intern should know what this is and know that it's special. And this should go up the chain. Someone should be like, hey, this is a special car. Let's reach out to this seller. This is a car that potentially could get $150,000 or more. We want this car to sell because that means we as the platform make money. So let's give a little bit more service to this particular seller and help them and encourage them to give us better assets. Let's go ahead and give them a call and say, hey guys, let's help you find a photographer and a videographer that can create the assets that are going to not just sell this car's romanticism, but let people know and educate them that this is something special. I think the problem with this car is that it doesn't really, unless you know what the Balboni is, you see it just looks like a yellow Gallardo, which is frankly a dime a dozen in the e-gear platform, right? So, you know, you've got to really find a way to make sure that this first impression of this car is, wait, that's not just a regular Gallardo, and really hot, awesome photos or a really hot, awesome hero photo could do that. And then follow that up with really cool videos and other assets. You know, some people in the chat are asking a great question. It's like, okay, if Cars and Bids is raising their fees to match the same as BAT, well, what are they getting, you know, that they can't get at BAT? BAT has the bigger audience, and that's why this car would have done better on BAT. The BAT audience would have known what this car is. I think a lot of people have, at this point, have gotten to the point where they're like, well, I'm only going to look at Cars and Bids for cars that are kind of a deal, because they're having fewer and fewer cars that are special, and a lot of the cars aren't closing. So maybe that's an opportunity where we can kind of snake a car that, you know, undervalue, as opposed to a place where sellers say, hey, this is where I'm going to get the most money. I think one of the things that Cars and Bids has to offer is the fact that, you know, there's a lower barrier to entry, and your car on their platform isn't fighting with 100 other cars on any given day. It's hard to see what's coming on BAT. If your car isn't going to close on that day or the day before, it's I mean, 7, you know, cars that have a week to sit on BAT, man, it's going to be, they're under hundreds of other cars before people even get to them. So I think Cars and Bids does have some things that they can do. I think that they can leverage you know, Doug DeMiro's YouTube platform and do more. He needs to plug the cars that are on his platform more often as well. But yeah, all that said, I think that this is just unfortunately a failure of this particular platform at this time, and it looks like hopefully they'll change that.
Let me give you a little more data on what you get when you work with Cars and Bids, and that is, you know, as JP was saying, when BAT is listing 150 cars a day and Cars and Bids is listing, you know, 2-3 dozen, you struggle to get 10,000 views on your car on Bring a Trailer because even though they have a massive audience, it's spread over 150 cars. This Lamborghini, even with poor assets and the car just didn't pop, they still got almost 22,000 views on the car, which this car would struggle to do on BAT. And then when you deal with a boutique place, a small outfit like Cars and Bids, the folks that you're working with there are going to be more hands-on. Chances are you're going to talk to somebody who actually gives a shit who you are. Whereas at BAT, I've been selling cars on BAT and nobody knows who I am at BAT. But look at what Carbine is doing on BAT. You know, like he comes to regularly, and now he's getting a lot of attention from Cars and Bids for being such a great seller and being so consistent. And so I think that kind of hands-on treatment is another thing. The other thing is, as JP says, that lower barrier to empty, part of that lower barrier is time. If you bring your cars to Cars and Bids, you're going to be up in a couple of days if you have all your ducks in order. If you don't have your ducks in order at BAT, that's going to take 2 to 4 weeks to get you listed, as you go back and forth to get them the VIN and the paperwork and the email and the blah, blah, blah. It's just, it could take forever. But with Cars and Bids, somebody will hold your hand through the process and get you up there. So that's the difference. But we'll see. Yeah, I like your idea, JP. It would be interesting if they say, hey, look, we've got a photographer in your region, Mr. Seller Harry Houdini. Like, let's send you down. Would you be willing to spend a couple of dollars to have great assets instead of cell phone photos for your $150,000 to $200,000 asset? How can you say no to that? I think a lot of people are leaving money on the table, and we've been preaching that for 5 years. All right, JP, shall we jump?
Yeah, let's get to the next car. What do we got?
All right, so our good friend in the nerd herd, Mike LeBlanc, our new favorite lister, he mentioned this car. And JP, I'm kind of mad I didn't buy it when we see what it hammered for. Let's check in on our 2016 Porsche 911 Carrera GTS Coupe with a 7-speed manual and just 16,000 miles on the odometer from new. On BAT out of Bend, Oregon, our car is spectacular, JP, because it's a GTS, it's rear-wheel drive, it's a coupe, it's got center lock wheels. And it's got a manual transmission, for God's sake. And don't forget that low odometer. This is arguably, and we batted this back and forth on the last episode when we covered the car. This was the greatest, most tangible manual transmission 911 you could buy in 2016. We're talking about 991.1s with a stick. The next great car to buy was a 911R. And let's face it, you had to be hand-picked to buy that car because you had already bought a 918 Spider. Otherwise, mere mortals weren't given the privilege to shell out $220,000 to get a 911R. So this was the best car you could drive with rear-wheel drive and a stick. And it's a really damn good car. 3.8 liter is normally aspirated, and it's putting down over 400 horsepower. What more could you want? JP, these cars have proven to be bright spots in the secondary market where most of the standard 991.1s are sort of soft. Manuals with the S and GTS variety that are rear-wheel drive are bringing good money. With that in mind, we took a deep dive on this car thanks to Mike LeBlanc. And we also checked in with our friends at Classic.com who told us manual.1s rear-wheel drive are $117,000 on average in the secondary market. JP, I thought this car was going to come in at $135,000. You took the over. Mr. Grouch over there went $140,991. Now, we did see, I think, JP, didn't we see like a GTS Targa that brought like crazy money, like 100, like over sticker price or whatever. But your number is definitely up there and close to sticker. JP, our car did really well. It hammered for $132,000 where it sold on 42 bids. So JP, I'm at 135. You're at 140. The car actually came in underneath this. Now it did good. It brought good money. Do you think it was simply the fact that like Guards Red is the color nobody really gives a rat's ass about? Like if this car were green or blue or gray, would it have brought your number or my number? Or do you think that's it and the color had nothing to do with the result? Because I'm just going to go on the record and say, if you're looking for a Porsche in the secondary market, Guards Red has to be your least favorite option in general, especially with the renaissance of rare shades. Do you think that's what held it back, or was it the assets or the time of year? Talk to me. What do you think? Could he have gotten more, or was that all of it?
This is one of those cars. I think the only seller that could have gotten more for this car, and I don't think it's the color. I mean, okay, sure. If it were a rare color or PTS, it would have brought more money for sure. But I don't necessarily think the red was holding it back. If this car were at a Porsche dealership, it would have brought probably $10,000 more. There was a BAT user, one Hustler, right, and it could have been a PTO car for sure. One Hustler, the BAT user pointed out that there's only one other GTS manual for sale anywhere in the country, and it's at a Porsche dealership, and they're asking $147,000. And a lot of the bidders at the very end of this auction that were bidding in the high 120s and right up into the 130s were dealerships. So dealerships wanted this car on their floor. This is the kind of car that a salesperson, if you're a salesperson at a Porsche dealership and you hear from the used car manager that a GTS with a manual and 16,000 miles is coming in inventory, this car never hits the showroom floor. It's sold way before anyone walks in off the street and gets to see it. There are salespeople with lists of buyers looking for this exact car because they're just not out there, and they will pay a premium for it. The difference is that those people that go to the dealership and want a car like this are not spending time on BAT or Cars and Bids or PCAR Market or any of them. They're just a different type of buyer that aren't going to mess around with this, call it nonsense. It's a little bit too, it's too pedestrian for some buyers. So yeah, I think this is an absolutely spectacular car, and somebody bought it well. And yeah, I mean, there was I just also wanted to kind of bring up real quickly too, because it's a manual. I mean, if this were a GTS PDK, you're talking about a $80,000 car. You know,
a little more than that. Come on,
I don't know, man. Well, maybe with the lower miles.
Yeah, with the lower miles and the center locks and the adaptive sports seats and the odometer and all that shit, I think like closer to 100.
I don't think so. I mean,
but you're
results.
Legit. Yeah. You're legit in that 25 to 30% premium for the third pedal.
Yeah.
But I don't think this is a $75,000 car, JP. No, it's too nice. It's too fun to drive.
It's too low miles, but the GTSs are great. But PDKSs are down in the 50s and 60s. So a GTS, I mean, we've seen really nice GTSs go, like really nice GTSs with better color combos. PDK, still, you're talking like 90 tops. It's not breaking 100. There's no freaking way. I mean, especially you start getting into that a little higher, you're looking at like 991Ts and a bunch of other cars that are just straight up better. So anyways, we can debate that. The reason why I wanted to bring it up was because Ed Steenman for Dealer Marketing Magazine just did a feature on us. I think it's coming out. I think that drops tomorrow. So look for that in Dealer Marketing Magazine. But you know, they did a feature on the Bid Nerds asking us like, what can dealers glean from BAT? And really the conversation was, you know, dealers that don't know what BAT or Cars and Bids or PCAR Market is are dealers that are missing out. If someone comes into your dealership, you know, a lot of used car managers are like, I don't want to deal with these classic cars or with these enthusiast cars. Well, that's fine. If you're selling, you know, a Grand Wagoneer, a brand new one, and someone brings in their GTS 911 with a stick to trade it in, and you look at the book value and you're like, oh, it's 80 or 90 grand or whatever trade in, that seller is going to be like, see ya. And you're not selling your Grand Wagoneer. You have to understand that this is a different animal from the regular version of the car. And so check out that article and see what you guys think. Let us know what you think of the results of this GTS. Yeah.
You're speaking the language of Cars and Bids, and I think PCAR Market, and I'm not sure what they're doing at MB Market and these other guys, but JP, these guys, they definitely, you know, to take a bigger bite out of the market out of BAT, I think one of the areas and the regions that they can grow into is getting more partnerships with dealerships or franchise. You know, if you had Indigo as a client and you've got 6 Porsche stores across, you know, the western half of the United States, then you get those used car managers or those classic managers to list cars with you at Cars and Bids and PCAR Market, and now you're getting inventory that's untapped, and there are thousands of cars out there. So I think that's all in the business plan, JP, and you're skirting right on the cusp of what this new thinking is going to be, and how the dealership market and the classic car sort of, you know, used car market will blend, and of course us as the end users will get a bigger variety of cars to choose from, which could be a lot of fun and pretty valuable for everybody involved. All right, JP, should we jump to the next one?
Yeah, before we do, let's make sure that we mention to everybody, some people still don't know yet, but one of the things that Bid Nerds is now doing is we are offering our services, all these things that we know, all this information that we've learned over the years of doing this show. If you have a car that you would like to list on one of the auction platforms, whether it's BAT, Cars and Bids, or doesn't really matter which one, give us a holler and we will help you sell that car. We can help you with creating the right kind of assets. We can make sure that we are treating your customers and having the interactions with them the way that you want your car represented. Reach out to us on or rather at Bid Nerds on the Instagram machine, and you will reach one of us, and we'll happily get back to you and have a conversation with you. So we'd love to hear from you if you want to sell your car on BAT, Cars and Bids, or PCAR Market. All right, Michael Deeb, what was the next car that we made a prediction on? This car is kind of similar in a way to the last car. I think this is a good dovetail in this conversation. What is the next car?
All right, JP, we are going to circle back to the 1995 Pontiac Firebird SLP.
Wait, nope. Sorry, I wanted to go. Yeah, I wanted. Speaking of dovetail, because I wanted to talk about this particular car because we were just talking about a manual transmission 911. So let's go to this one. Sorry. All
right, so our friend Rook in the Nerd Herd reached out to us and submitted for our amusement this 2005 Porsche 911 Turbo S Coupe that was running no reserve on Bring a Trailer, showing just 27,000 miles from new. Our car was listed by the company or the seller Curated Motors
Well, hold on. I do need to interject for just a second. This was Rook's. This is not a car that Rook owns, but they're the same person. The seller is Rook, but he's under a different name on
his company is Curated
BAT.
Motors. Yeah, his company and his handle on BAT is Curated Motors out of North Charleston, South Carolina. Rook was representing this car or bringing this car to market for his client. The car ran no reserve. The big news here, JP, is we've got this low mile Turbo S coupe in a I think a regular range color, but not often selected, cobalt blue metallic. At a glance, your first instinct today is like, oh, it's got to be PTS. But I actually think that color was offered, just not selected often. But the big news here, JP, is that this Turbo S with low miles and a bright paint job is straddled with the 5-speed automatic transmission. And JP, we banged on this gearbox. It's just, I mean, talk about putting a governor on the car and holding it back. I imagine, look, if you got a bum leg or if you're, an older person and this is all you need and the car is plenty fun, I'm sure it's a hoot to drive. But man, oh man, with a car like this with all the same specification, the bright color, the low odometer, and the Turbo S configuration, this would be well over $100,000 car. According to our friends at classic.com, though, that the Turbo S with an automatic is typically just a $56,000 conversation. JP, our car was already at $56,000 when we covered on the show just a couple of days ago. Reading the tea leaves and looking where this car was headed, I put my bid in at $71,000. JP, you liked my bid so much you parked right underneath me, you son of a biscuit. $70,996. Thanks for that $4 cushion, you cheap bastard. So you parked yours right underneath me. Our car did fantastic. $70,496 at Hammer, running no reserve. It sold for that number on just 23 bids. JP, I know you've had a conversation with Rook post-Hammer, and Rook was thrilled to report that his client was very happy with that number. JP, you lamented to me candidly off camera that when we were looking at, I think actually you might have said it on camera, you were like $56,000. We have 2 days to go. That's where my bid would be, because that would have been right in line with where they average sell. But I think the colorway and the low odometer helped this one. Also, 996 Turbo S's have actually been gaining steam. GT2s are now $250,000 for the high mileage ones and $300,000 for the low mileage ones. So Turbo S's or X50 turbos or X51s, remind me whatever it is, are bringing more and more money. Now, like more and more low odometer ones are easily breaking 100, getting up to $120,000, $130,000. So now we have one with an automatic, a great paint job, and a low odometer. And that's getting up to in this case, $71,000. Well done. Everybody involved won with that one. JP, what do you unpack when you look at that result?
Yeah, the fact is that you have to sell your car on BAT or one of these platforms to get money like this for something like this. The Facebook Marketplace, not Cars and Bids, but I don't know, call it Auto Trader, all the other places that sell used cars that you might be able to find a 996 Turbo, they are littered with Tiptronic cars. You can find a 996 Turbo with low miles in a cool color, but with only 2 pedals, you just don't need to spend more than $60,000. Hell, I don't think you need to spend. I would only spend something in the 40s. I think they are like, I am shocked. I mean, absolutely shocked. If I had pearls, I would be clutching them. I cannot, for the life of me, believe that a couple of people went after one another, bidding this thing up to $70-something thousand. That is impossible. I would have bet large sums of money at the beginning of this auction that there is no way in hell. So if you are sitting there going, I don't know about this BAT thing, maybe I should just sell it on Marketplace or something, like, you're an idiot. Put it on BAT. There's a seat for there's an ass for every seat, and the ass found this particular seat. Congrats to the seller. Nice going, guys.
Well done. And JP, you and I will tip our hat that he ran it no reserve. The fact that he got his client to trust him. I mean, that rolling hero shot makes producer John proud. I know that for a fact. That's a great rolling shot. JP, how much is the difference between flare and glare?
$50,000.
$50,000 photo shot right there, and I think that's what got him the to 70 was the hero shot. Well done with the assets. Well done getting your client to trust you, Rook, to run it no reserve, because it paid off in the end. I don't think you left any money on the table. Absolutely knocked it out of the park.
All right, let's move on. We've got Barney. What is this all about?
One more. Yeah, Grimace is on. Here we go. JP, now we will circle back to the 1995 Pontiac Firebird SLP Firehawk coupe with a 6-speed manual and just 12,000 lowly miles from new on the odometer. Our car was listed on BAT out of Rockville, Maryland. And again, that super low odometer. The SLP Firehawk, was kind of the special treatment. I don't exactly know what you got, but I think some suspension tuning, probably a higher speed rated tire, and maybe a few other things. 315 horsepower from that V8. This is kind of a cool car. When you look at it in this condition now, what's it been 30 years, JP? I kind of dig it. I'm embarrassed to say I feel like coilovers and some Borla exhaust would make this thing really, really cool. I bet you it's a hoot to drive. And the dark purple is totally on brand today. Like, I bet they couldn't give that color away in period. And now let's see if somebody would pay a premium. JP, here's somebody that should have called Rook or the Bid Nerds to represent their car, because they ran it with a reserve, and I think in the end that may have hurt them. John, when we talk to our friends at Classic.com, they say that the SLP Firehawks typically bring $26,000 with a manual in the secondary market. I thought this car, with the purple colorway and the low odometer, had every chance to get to that number. So $26,000 was the bid I went with. You were just a bit bearish on this one, JP. You came in at $22,000 and beat me to the result. The hammer for this one was just $23,500, where it failed to sell on 25 bids. So I'll go right back to you as JP and say, do you think if they had pulled the reserve, the bidding would have continued? They would have ultimately got to within the number they were looking for? Or do you just think nobody wants to pay more than $23,500 for even the nicest SLP Firehawk with a manual transmission in the secondary market? Because that car doesn't really have any collector value. There are no eyeballs. There's no demand for that, second-rate stepchild of the Camaro from the 1990s.
Doctors, surgeons, anyone in the medical field, when they get their medical license, they take what's called, and we've all heard of it, we've all watched ER or House or whatever, they take the Hippocratic Oath. First, do no harm. In my career working, I don't work in the car business, right? I am car business adjacent. I've been in the advertising business for 30 plus years, and I've helped car dealerships for all that time. And one of the things you see car dealerships, they advertise, they're on social media, or back in the day when they're on TV, and you see the salespeople out there, and they're trying to make videos. And you got some salesperson who's standing out in front of the lot, and he's got his, bad shirt and tie on, and he's like, folks, come on down and come and look at this car. It's really nice. It's really clean. It's a cream puff. You got to check it out. We're giving great deals. We'll treat you really well. Bring your mom. It's like, dude, shut up. You're not helping. You're actually making it worse, right? You need to take the Hippocratic Oath. You are doing harm to your brand, right? Now, all that said, have a look at this driving video and tell me. This guy.
That's 16-year-old.
Yeah, bro. I got my steering wheel. I got my shifter. It's like I'm a 12-year-old who just figured out that, hey, look at this. I can play with my stick. This is... oh, my God. Dude, just stop. You're making it so bad. People, and it's not just me. There were multiple comments in the comments under this listing. People were going, you know what? I think I'm going to skip this car because of that video.
Wow,
and then
really?
another thing
brutal.
that they did, which I thought was interesting, and I wanted to bring up really quickly, was at somewhere like on the last day of the auction, said, "Hey, we're gonna waive the dock fee." Right, because it was a dealership selling this thing. Like, bro, why even bring that up? Why do you have a dock fee for an auction?
Yeah.
You know, and like that's one thing that you notice on listings that are dealerships. They do list the additional fees. The platforms, all of them do require the dealerships to add any other additional fee.
Right.
But it's like, guys, if you're selling a car on BAT, have no additional fees. The buyers are already paying, you know, a buyer's premium. Then if they're buying from a dealership, they know they're going to have to pay tax. They know they're going to have to deal with shipping, and you want to charge them another nickel and dime, $200, $195, $500. That's just total chicken shit. And this dealer deserves to sell no cars. If it's me, I'd kick him off the platform. This is the kind of listing that Cars and Bids should say no to. I'm not saying that this listing wasn't on Cars and Bids, but if it came to them, they need to be able to say, you guys aren't doing it right. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So my counter to that is, like, it's fine if the dock fee is there. It's $200. It's not going to make or break the deal. But at the time when you're emotionally deciding, should I go for this car or not, to presence the dock fee is just like, that is just so cringeworthy. You know, the first rule of sales is when you put your you ask for the money, put the pen down and stop talking. These people who are ushering these auctions, like whoever was representing the dealership that was answering the questions for this particular listing, once the clock starts to count down and the people are fighting over it, let them fight. These guys that go in and coach and thank and presence every single comment and bid at closing time are interrupting the flow of the action. Shut the F up. You're not the Charlie, what's his name? The auctioneer for Bonhams or Gooding or whatever. Shut your mouth. Like, just let them work. It'll take care. You've done all your work. It's game time. Put the pen down and stop talking. And so the presence, the dock fee was the mistake, not the $200 that you're willing to waive. It's the fact that you're reminding people they have to buy it from an idiot like you. Shut up.
So, right. I mean, you're sitting there, you're bidding, you're trying to pay attention to other bids, and now all of a sudden this idiot dealer says that they're waiving the dock fee. Now you have to go in your head, oh wait, were there other fees?
Right.
So now I'm looking to see if now I'm digging through. Oh, was there? Okay, they waived that. Is there something else? My brain isn't in, like, I'm going to go drive down the road with one hand and I'm going to be ripping this thing around and I'm going to go pick up hot chicks, right? Or do some sick jumps. You're thinking about stupid administrative crap that's going to make you not want to buy a car. That's not where you want your buyer's headspace to be. This dealer just,
in their heart,
abject
in their
failure.
heart, not their head. Yeah.
Okay.
In their heart, not their head.
We have so far to go. We got to go to commercial really quick. And we have a bunch of predictions still to make, you guys. Stick around. We're just getting started. We're not going to make it. Hey, guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths. Fine Swiss repair. All right, we are back. Let's get to some predictions. Have you hit the thumbs up yet? Have you hit the like button yet? Have you subscribed yet? Do all three. Come on, let's get after it. Let's get to some predictions. This is the real fun part. What do we got? What's the first car on the list? Let's do it quick. Boom.
All right, JP. Offered for sale by our friends over at OTS and Company out of Berkeley, California, is this fantastic 1992 Acura NSX with just 8,100 miles on the odometer. You heard me right. I think it's Grand Prix, right? Right, isn't it? Yeah, Grand Prix white, black leather, rear-wheel drive, manual transmission, and just 8,000 miles from new. JP, we talk about this from time to time. There are special cars that if they come in a special colorway, automatically get a premium. Typically, any cool Japanese car that's painted in white brings a premium, but particularly so when we're talking about Grand Prix white on an Acura NSX with a black leather interior and a manual transmission. Let's not forget that this car has barely been broken in. Our car is listed on Bring a Trailer and is offered out of Berkeley, California. And I can tell you that the photographer that I've had the privilege to work with, Kev the Photographer on Instagram, at Kev the Photographer, he shot these shots. I can tell they're his shots because he's the only one with the gate. The key to the gate to open up and get this fantastic little background that's on the water over there in the East Bay, in the Bay Area. So great assets, spectacular car. JP, we have seen cars like this trip $200,000. The real question here, I don't think it's going to come from the platform. I don't think it's going to come from the car. I don't think it's going to come from the seller. I think that the result of this car is going to be more stock market and crypto market. So when I say market dependent, not the car market, but the overall market, I think that's going to dictate whether or not this is a great time to sell this car, or if we see this car not reach those ultimate, $200,000 heights, that it has more to do with like the economic climate than it does with the actual car or the list or the photography, the assets, or the lister, the seller, the platform, blah, 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 blah. Fantastic car. It's the cusp of spring. It looks fantastic in these photos. And we all know that Grand Prix White is like the holy grail of NSXs and other really cool Japanese, real culture shocking sports cars. So John, I kick this one right back over to you. The reason why I wanted to do it is because we haven't really covered an NSX in a little while, but this one being white, this is that premium color like we see, what is it called? I think Laguna Seca blue or something on the M3s. And we saw that special blue Z8 that Chris Carbine was listing. This is another one of those crazy colors. Grand Prix White on a Honda product. This is the freaking holy grail. So JP, give me your 2 cents. You are in the business. What do you think of these assets? These shots, this background is why I picked up the phone and called Kev, the photographer, and started working with him myself. And the guys involved at OTS and company are really, really great guys and super enthusiasts, and they continue to bring spectacular cars. This is a put away car. I mean, this will be a $500,000 car in a few years. So what do you think, JP?
Yeah, this is the exact opposite of that Firehawk ad. This is an example of exactly what you want to do. And if Cars and Bids wants to attract sellers like this, they're going to have to implement the changes that we talked about earlier in the show. And if they do that, if they get more listings from other sellers like this one, they will eventually get more of a market share. And I think a car like this would do really well on Cars and Bids because the Doug DeMuro audience likes this kind of stuff. I mean, this is an NSX, one of the greatest cars in the world. I was out shooting the point of view driving video for my slant nose Kremer LS swap car that we're going to be selling here pretty soon on BAT. And we were out there at Red Rock, and in front of me was a 993 RS. There was a GT4 RS, and there was an NSX, a red one, our friend Alcantara's. And
wow,
and I'm out there keeping up in my stupid little slant nose car. We had such a wonderful time, but we had the 3 best handling cars of all time, and then my big old brute force power car behind it, just mopping them up, trying to catch up. It was, I was all squirrely, and they're like, they could have had a cup of tea while I was doing everything I could to keep my car in a straight line. What a great day. I love this car. I love this listing. If you need an example of how to do it, take a look at this one, guys. All right, what's it going to bring?
All right, JP, according to our friends at classic.com, a 1995 Acura NSX, did I do that right? I lost my space. 1992 Acura NSX in the secondary market is only a $74,000 conversation. But that's a summary of all the cars from that N1, that first generation of the NSX, all compiled together, and that's manuals and automatics. They don't have a separate column at Classic for manuals, which I think will make a big difference. And they certainly don't have a value add there. And I didn't check with Haggerty what the value add might be for Grand Prix White, but I think they should have one on Haggerty. JP, I did a little bit of homework on this. Again, when the market was at its height a couple of years ago, I think this car would have touched $200,000. It's currently at $124,747, and it closes tomorrow. The action on this car is not so great. Just 4 bids up to this moment, but it's already at basically 125. JP, again, at the height of the market with these assets, I think this car would be flirting with $200,000, but I don't think this is the best year of the last handful to sell this car, and that's just a bummer of timing for whoever the consignor may be. An OTS, for all I know, might own this car themselves, but I think this car will do well and get up to $158,000. I have no idea what the expectations are. I did not talk to our friends over there, so I hope that 158 covers what they're looking for, or the reserve that they were granted by BAT. But I think in a better turn of events, this is easily $175,000, $180,000 plus car. But I think today, despite the fantastic assets, I'm just a bit tempered on the expectation. So I think 158 would be what I would expect it to get it to. I hope that meets their expectations and gets it done. John, what's your bid?
Yeah, I think people that have the money for this, people that are real collectors, somebody that actually wants this car has been waiting. We haven't seen one of these. I mean, like you said, we don't see a lot of NSXs, and when we do, they tend to have been driven. This is a true collector mileage version of this car in the best colorway that you can get, like you said. I think that the people that have the money aren't so worried about what's going on in the market. Everyone knows that we're kind of in the new normal, and for the next 12 to 18 months, things are going to be goofy, right? If you got the dough, you need a place to park it. The stock market may not be the best place to have your money sitting around, and maybe not so much in crypto, but maybe something like this is pretty solid. This is a good place to throw a little of that money that you may have taken out of the stock market. So I'm going to go over you by just a little bit. I'm going to go 160, and I think the Nerd Herd agrees with me. Most of the bids are right at yours or a little bit higher. We're kind of ranging from the 140 to 160 or 170 range. So I don't think it's going to hit 200 though. I think people know that this is kind of a buyer's market, but it's not like the prices and values of cars like this have crashed. And this isn't an exotic car like a modern, 458 or something like that, where those are just spiraling the toilet.
Yeah, a couple of those early bids are high. I see MIK's at 175 and BD's at 193. And again, I think BD, like a year or two ago, that would have happened, especially with these assets. And look, it may still happen here, and I wouldn't be surprised. But just given everything, there's all this friction in the market, and I just feel like that might hold people back, and we'll see what happens here in a few days.
We have
JP,
four cars to go, and we only have 10
up.
minutes, so let's get to it.
All
what
right.
do we got? Let's do this one
JP.
really quick and give me your bid.
Okay, JP, on cars and bids right now is this 2024 Porsche 911 Carrera T Coupe being sold by none other than friend of the herd, Chris Carbine at Carbine 123, Carbine Motor Cars in New Orleans, Louisiana. JP, this car had $140-something thousand MSRP, and the car only has 4,400 miles on it. It looks spectacular in this all black colorway, full black interior, black wheels, black calipers. Something about this car on this brick alleyway, the assets absolutely pop. So I'm not sure who Carbine is using for his photographers. Either they moved to a new location or he got a new shooter, but these assets are spectacular. Given the fact that cars and bids sheds a lot of love to Carbine, I think this car is going to get great attention. And with that in mind, JP, we talked to our friends at classic.com. They tell us that 911Ts from 2024 typically ring for $134,000, which is on average about 10 grand under MSRP. That's what I saw when I did when I looked around, that the cars are all ranging in the $130,000 range, and one or two have actually tripped for over MSRP with maybe just a little bit less mileage than this one has. JP, I think this car is going to perform the same. My bid going into this one is $135,000. What do you think of the new backdrop for Carbine's cars? What do you think of the team? Give us a bid.
Yeah, he definitely shot it during the right time of day. The black is popping really, very nice. Look, the 992 is not my favorite version of the 911. I think it's, look, if you're going to get a 992, this is the one. This is the one right here. 3 pedals. You've got the cloth seats. Everything about this car is fantastic. It's JP spec. It's black on black. For my money, for that same amount of money, I would rather have that 991 GTS with the manual. But that said, it would be a very difficult decision, one next to the other. This car probably has. Does this car have some warranty left on it? Yeah. I mean, what a great way to get into one of these and not have to wait. What was your bid?
135, and Classics at 134.
Okay, I'm going to park. I'm going to be chicken shit. I'm going to park it right under you and go. You said 135. I'm going to go 134,992. And just, I think you're right.
Sure.
I think, honestly, I would have said 135,992, but I don't want to go over. So there it is.
JP, you parked it so close to me, I can't get out on the driver's side. I got to climb through the passenger window.
You do. Yeah, I parked it right against the wall. All right. Well, and good luck to our good friend, Chris. I hope he does better than both of us. This car does have the potential, I think, to get into the 140 range. I mean, it's just you have to wait if you want one of these. So why not just go get it from our friend Chris? This is as nice a car as you can get. All right, let's move on. What's next? All right,
JP, we got a 1989 Toyota pickup with a 4-speed manual transmission that's running no reserve right now on Bring a Trailer. Our car is listed out of Live Oak, California, and showing just 78,000 miles from new. So JP, correct me if I'm wrong, but when it just says pickup and not 4x4, this is a 2-wheel drive, 4-speed manual with a 4-cylinder, 2.4 liter inline 4. JP, take it away. Tell me more about this car.
I am just so excited about this truck. This is just so low key. This is just so under the, like, I love that car that we just talked about, that, you know, Chris's 992 911T with all the cool stuff and whiz bang, and it's got lights and dashboards and all the things. This truck has none of it. None of it. They just announced the Slate the other day. Everybody saw that. It was kind of broke the internet. The EV car that kind of looks like it's just a little pickup truck actually had roll-up windows. Well, this little truck has roll-up windows. This is what America needs. Somebody needs to make this a modern version of this truck, and that's kind of what Slate did, but it's an EV. I think it would be great if Toyota brought out something like this that had an airbag and a 4-cylinder, something like this 22 RE. These are 2.4 liters, but I think a modern, 1.6 with a little turbo, or even a 2-liter naturally aspirated, even better version of the 22 RE with roll-up windows. Millennials don't know what this means, right? If you're older than millennials, you know what this means, but anybody younger is like, what's wrong with the old guy's arm? Does he need help? Yeah. Should I call
If you did that to a millennial and they're like, what does that mean? And you say, it means I want to talk to you. And they're like, but I don't get it. Why does that mean I want to talk to you? It means like, roll down the window. Roll down the window. They're like, what
this right here is the truck that back in the 80s, we were talking about TV commercials for cars. This was $59.99. It was the car that the dealership would advertise that you could get for $85 a month or for $59.99 out the door, right? And this was the car that would get everybody to the dealership, and all the other ones, had air conditioning or had power steering or whatever. They were all like $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 or $10,000, but they had this one that they could advertise super cheap that was just like a total stripper. I love this truck. This is the way we need to bring these back. This in white or black or silver or gray, just super basic. This and a 911, all you ever need. Maybe if you had some air conditioning. What's the number?
The DWA 2-car solution for JP is a black 911 and a Toyota pickup. All right, JP, our car is running no reserve and it closes tomorrow. It's currently listed at $8,869. Our friends at classic.com tell us that these cars typically sell for $16,000. JP, I think this one is going to do just that. I'm going to give you my bid at $15,000 where it will sell. I dare you to go over my number. Where are you at?
I'll go $16,000. Why not? I'll give you a grand over the top over that. What's the next car? Let's try to get one more in under the wire here. What do we got?
We're good because, we did start on time. All right, JP, we got one more that was petitioned for us by, I think, our buddy Mike LeBlanc. Mike, sent us that 991.1 911 GTS in Guards Red that did really well and sold. So here's another one. This 1982 Mazda RX-7 GS that's running no reserve, has a 5-speed manual out of Brighton, Colorado, and 55,000 miles on the odometer. Very cool of this early car. JP, check out the interior. We get these sort of like leather or vinyl seats with the cloth down the middle. This is like early stages of like the blueprint for Alcantara, so that you wouldn't slide around when you were cornering in your GS example of the RX-7. These rotaries JP has taught us over the years are kind of high maintenance. Every 30, 40,000 miles, if you beat them up, you may be in for a very inexpensive rebuild, but a rebuild nonetheless. And I wonder if that's what holds these things back from being ultimate collectors down in the secondary market, because these cars do have a fervent fan following. JP, our friends at classic.com tell us that the RX-7 GS from 1982 typically sells for about $14,000. I'm going to go a little over on this one because it's running no reserve. The fact that it closes tomorrow and it's already at $10,000. JP, I'm going to send it to you with $16,000 in my column for this RX-7. What do you like about the car, and what's your bid at?
I do love this car. I wanted to bring it up because there was one locally. I think I sent it to you on a DM, Deeb. There was one for sale. Yeah, a white one that had like 60,000 miles, and it looked immaculate. The only problem was the car had been sitting for 20 years. It was under a cover. Apparently, an uncle passed away, and it was just sitting there. And finally, like, okay, we got to let this go. It was in a small town outside of Vegas, and I really wanted to go out and look at it. And I called some of my friends that are into RX-7s, and they're like, yeah, man, because I asked them, who do I go to rebuild this engine? Because clearly it's going to need a rebuild. I don't know why they stopped driving it 20 years ago, but even if it's just been sitting, it's going to obviously need someone that knows what they're looking at to get into this little rotary engine. And they're like, oh, the best guy is this guy in Orange County, or this guy in LA, or this guy in the Bay Area. I'm like, none of those are in Vegas? And they're like, oh yeah, nobody in Vegas knows anything about rotary. So I was like, all right, I'm leaving this one alone. That's the problem with something like this. If you live in LA or someplace, a big city that has, if you have a mechanic that knows how to work on one of these, or you know how to work on it yourself, I think this is a great car. But if you don't have that person, if you don't have access to that, I think these cars are going to be a bit of a heartache. So that you gave me the number 14. Where's it sitting at?
Yeah, it's at $10,000 right now.
Okay.
14 is Classic's number. My number was 16. JP,
Okay.
What's your number? How much are you paying for that tire dressing in the photos?
I'm going to give it 14, just like Classic says, and
All
I
right.
think that's a good buy. All right, guys, I'm looking at my Hour Smith's Aviera watch and saying that is a show. Thanks for hanging out. We're taking you out with the Kremer.